Quitting a six-figure corporate job was the best financial decision that I've ever made. Let me know if this resonates with you guys, but have you ever worked twice as hard or had all these ideas to make your workflow more efficient, whether it's strategies or methods you use personally or things you want to bring into the team, and the company just gets in the way? Maybe it's a project you want to start to solve a problem you've noticed in the company, but you can't even begin until you get a bunch of approvals. Or maybe you just want to roll out something small that would help everyone move faster and perform better, but there are so many blockers, so many cooks in the kitchen, that nothing ever actually moves forward. That was my life in corporate. I had ideas, I wanted to push things forward, but it felt like the system was built to slow me down, and that's when I realized if I wanted control over my own work, my time, and my income, I was going to have to leave. So really quickly, I'm just going to talk about my moment of realization, and honestly, by this point, I was already planning to leave. I knew I wanted to move out of the country and pursue this whole digital nomad path. I even talked about that in a video on becoming a digital nomad, so feel free to check it out and I'll link it here in the video somewhere, so definitely give it a watch. But there was one project that made me silent quit. And when I say silent quit, I mean I just stopped caring about the work. And I'm not proud of that, but it was a huge realization for me that this company was holding me back. The project was simple on paper: build a support chatbot using AI. Except the back end wasn't even fully working. But on the front end, we were expected to make it look like it did. Basically, we were supposed to create a flow where users could submit a support case, maybe see some related help articles, and hopefully resolve it without needing a human. Sounds fine, right? Well, here is where it drove me insane. Because companies like Microsoft, Freshworks, Salesforce, Figma even, they've spent millions, if not billions of dollars perfecting this kind of system. And instead of learning from them, instead of using what already works, we were reinventing the wheel. I literally found and presented case studies of working systems that were directly applicable to our use case. But it didn't matter, because what happened next was meetings. Meetings on meetings on meetings. Every single time we got together, someone would say, oh, maybe let's explore this idea. Maybe let's explore that idea. And suddenly what should have been a straightforward project turned into 20 different directions. So many cooks in the kitchen and zero actual progress. And the wild part is that this dragged on for almost a year. A year to build something that other companies already had figured out years ago. Meanwhile, we were already late to adopting AI, late to execution, and just completely stuck in our own way. So that was the moment that I realized this wasn't the environment for me. I wanted to move fast, solve real problems, and see results, but here the system was designed to slow you down. Okay, so when it came time to actually taking the leap, I knew I needed security. I had already decided I wanted to become a digital nomad, and I even started documenting that journey here on YouTube, so feel free to go and check out my channel. But I didn't want to jump without some kind of foundation. For me, that meant building a client base and proving to myself that my business could sustain me. It started pretty randomly, actually. I was posting a lot about UX design on Instagram, just sharing my process, what I was learning, and what I was looking for. And out of nowhere, I just met someone at the gym, super chill guy, who is actually a really good friend of mine today, who turned out to be the director of operations for a restaurant chain. Because he'd seen me talk about design, he reached out and then ended up being my first real client. Funny enough, they're still a partner of mine today. From there, more opportunities actually started showing up. I also started experimenting with platforms like Upwork and Contra, testing different ways to get clients, building funnels, and even asking for referrals. The goal was really simple: just stack up as many client streams as possible until the business felt solid. At one point, it became obvious my job was actually getting in the way of my business. I was putting in effort at my 9-to-5 with little return, while the same amount of effort on my own projects was bringing in more money, more impact, and more freedom. It just didn't make any sense to stay. And here's the thing, a lot of people talk about overcoming fear and things like that, but for me, by then, I wasn't scared anymore. I had reoccurring clients, I had a portfolio, I knew that if I needed to land another client to cover bills, I could. Once I had the foundation, the leap just didn't feel risky. It actually felt exciting. Like I was finally claiming back my time, my freedom, and the ability to work on things that were truly my own. So let's talk about life after corporate. Honestly, it's just been amazing. It's actually crazy I didn't do this sooner. That said, I do think working in corporate was important. It gave me the foundation, such as like the processes, systems, communication, presenting to stakeholders, managing clients, all of these different soft skills and hard skills that I learned in corporate and still use every single day. So I'm glad I had that experience, but I'm even more glad I left when I did. Since then, life has just gotten better. I started building my own team, I've taken on projects that actually excite me, and the thing that I love, the thing that I'm most addicted to honestly, is seeing the fruit of my labor. Like it's not just about saying I put in X amount of hours. It's about seeing the results, and I can literally say, because of the work I did, this business made over $150,000. Which is actually true. I did that for the restaurant chain that I was talking about in just a year's worth of time. And that was just the beginning. Now that I've got more resources, more strategies, and a team behind me, I know I can drive even bigger results. And that's the difference. In corporate, the harder I worked didn't necessarily mean more impact or more pay, but running my own business, the correlation is direct. The more effort I put in, the more money I make, and the more results that my clients actually see, which for me, honestly, that's a feeling I don't think I'll ever get tired of. And then there's the lifestyle. I live in Spain now. I can work from anywhere. My time zone is different, but I still overlap enough with the US to handle client calls, and it's pushed me to think bigger. Why just stick to one region? Now, I'm planning to expand into the UK, maybe other countries, and eventually figure out logistics of working globally. Hopefully. So yes, life after corporate has been nothing but great. More freedom, more fulfillment, and honestly, more excitement about the future than I ever had in a 9-to-5. Okay, so let's talk about some lessons that I learned from this entire experience. The first thing I realized is that freedom is worth more than a paycheck. And to me, freedom is everything. But here's the thing, there's always a price on freedom. You still have to make enough to cover your lifestyle. What I see a lot of people do is chase these high salaries in cities like San Francisco, New York, Seattle, and yeah, the number looks pretty impressive, but the cost of living actually wipes all of it out. Plus, if you're not choosing your projects, your work, your environment, or even the people that you work with, then honestly, what's the point? That high salary can really just be for show. But for some people, honestly, it's great. Don't get me wrong, corporate paychecks are predictable. They come with security, and you don't have to deal with all the extra work of running a business, which once again, for some people, that is amazing. And that's why some people decide to stay. But for me, the freedom of running my own business, of actually designing my life, far outweighs the predictability of a paycheck. Okay, moving on. The second lesson is that comfort kills creativity. In corporate, I eventually hit this point where I wasn't learning anymore, and honestly, it drove me through a depressive period of my life. My identity was tied to my work, and when that work felt repetitive, I didn't really feel like a designer. Everyone around me was comfortable, and some were even complacent, and I started to feel almost like the same. Running my own business changed everything though. Suddenly, I was forced to learn constantly. Everything I'm doing today, a year and a half ago, I had no idea how to do. And that's the thing about the challenges. When you push yourself to do something hard, you learn fast. And this is the analogy I give people literally all the time, but it's like running. At first, 1 mile feels intense, it's brutal, it's gut-wrenching, you don't want to do it. But once you've run 3, 4, 5 miles, suddenly 1 mile feels easy. And you're even willing to go for more. You can go for that 6 mile. The same thing happens in business. The more hard things you do, the more capable you feel and the more rewarding that it gets. That's honestly when I realized growth lives in the challenges and not in the comfort zones. Another big lesson for me is realizing that security is an illusion, especially in tech where layoffs happen constantly. The idea that a corporate job is safe is just not true. I think I first came across this idea in a book. It was honestly just a statement that hit me. I don't remember which one it was, but it really stuck with me. The truth is, you're just as likely to get laid off at a corporate job as you are to have something not work out in your business. Neither one is guaranteed. The difference, though, between the two is the reward. At a job, the upside is capped. You're trading stability for limits. But in business, the upside is uncapped. The risks are the same, but the payoff potential is way higher. So when people say things like, I need security, or I'm too scared to leave, I get it, but most of the time that's just fear talking. It's what we've been taught to believe so that we don't step out and try. Once you realize that job security is mostly an illusion, it changes how you see the leap. Honestly, I sound like a conspiracy theorist the way that I just delivered that, but honestly, it's true. One thing I really want to make clear though is this: it's hard. Starting and growing your own thing is difficult, and not just at the beginning, it's difficult the whole way through. But here's the thing: as you handle those challenges, they make you stronger. You get more confident in your ability to solve problems, and if you're the type of person who works well under pressure and actually thrives in tough situations, then you'll do great. If you're looking for an easy path though, then this is probably not for you. The part that I love about it is that these challenges do feel almost like a game. Every problem is like a puzzle you have to solve. Every tough project, every client issue, every internal system you have to figure out. It's like slaying a monster in a video game. Once you beat it, you level up. And the best part is you never go backwards. Once you've solved that challenge, you've got that skill, that system, that experience in your toolkit forever. It becomes part of your inventory. And that's how I see business. Not as something that gets easier, but as something where you're constantly leveling up. So yes, you can go from level 10 to level 11. You could also stay at level 10 if you really want to, but it's up to you. And really unlikely you will ever go down to level 9. It's like a game. So yeah, that's been my journey leaving corporate and building my own thing. If you're curious about how I actually got here, I've documented a lot of that across my other videos, so feel free to check those out. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'll definitely be answering, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you're thinking about leaving your 9-to-5 or if you've already done it. And of course, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos where I'll be sharing more about business, design, and my life as a digital nomad. Other than that, I will see you in the next one.